There's something timeless about Hyrule, a rhythm beneath its fields and mountains, an echo in the rivers, as if the land itself remembers what others have forgotten. Every legend tells of change, of kingdoms rising and falling, of heroes born again from courage and destiny. And yet, through all of it, something constant remains. Tonight, we're going to travel through the folds of time itself to understand why the Zelda timeline was never broken, but simply breathing, alive, and eternal. Once, there was only the beginning, the creation of the world by three golden goddesses, Din, Nairu, and Farore, who descended upon chaos and gave it form. Din shaped the land, Nairu granted law, and Farore gave life. When their work was done, they left behind the Triforce, a sacred relic that held a trace of their essence. This was the heartbeat that would echo through every story, every cycle, every incarnation of courage, wisdom, and power. From that moment on, the pattern began to repeat, not out of failure, but because that is how reality sustains itself in Hyrule. The balance between good and evil, light and shadow, was never meant to end. It was meant to renew. The Triforce was not a reward to be won once, but a mirror reflecting the spirit of those who sought it. When a hero arose, so did darkness. When peace settled, restlessness stirred beneath the surface. And so the story retold itself, not in contradiction, but in rhythm. When the goddess Hylia descended to protect the Triforce from those who would misuse it, she became the first to embody the cycle. Her mortal rebirth as Zelda and her champion's eternal duty marked the first era. This was not the start of the timeline. It was its first inhale. The events of Skyward Sword were not merely a prequel, but the foundation of recurrence, the sealing of demise, whose hatred would slumber and return again and again through forms and ages. Centuries later, that curse would awaken as Ganon. The people would forget the skies from which their ancestors descended, but destiny did not forget them. The repetition we see, from kingdom to ruin to kingdom again, is not evidence of disorder. It is evidence of a world held together by divine rhythm. Every fall of Hyrule is its heartbeat. Every rise a breath of life anew. Many would try to quantify this pattern. They would draw lines on parchment and divide timelines into branches. They would say that each choice, each ending, split reality into fragments. But in truth, those fragments are not separate. They are facets of the same jewel. For in the world of Hyrule, time is not a river that forks. It is the ocean, eternally rippling in circles, its waves overlapping. Every legend is happening somewhere, always. If we close our eyes and drift back to the era of chaos, beyond the reach of any hero, we can feel the formation of the land itself, waiting for its pattern to begin again. The gods bless the land, mortals rise, hubris grows, and from the wounded balance comes the next legend. The Minish, tiny artisans of light, come to the aid of a world shadowed by monsters. The Vati of that legend, the Wind Mage, becomes another echo of ambition undone by power. The hero of that time, armed with a cap that granted transformation, reminds us that even then, the pattern of mortal transcendence and temptation had already taken shape. The four swords followed, showing that even as Hyrule splintered, unity could be restored, not only of the kingdom, but of the self. For every hero is not just one person, but the sum of countless lives lived through the same spirit of courage. That is why Link's name persists across millennia. The same essence, reincarnated in new form, chosen not because of birthright, but because of resonance with the eternal courage of the gods. Now, the age of the great flood, a moment so often seen as rupture, yet it was renewal. The Great Sea was not a breaking of the timeline. It was the land remembering that destruction can be salvation. When the gods saw that Hyrule could not cleanse itself of evil, they chose to drown it, to preserve its spirit through water. The hero of winds did not emerge in defiance of the old land, but in affirmation of it. He was the breath taken after disaster, the lull between storms, proving that even drowned kingdoms seek new skies. Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, each carries the melody forward. The land may move, the names may shift, but the pattern remains. Wisdom guides, courage fights, and power tempts. Even in New Hyrule, built upon the ruins of the drowned world, the echo of the former kingdom lingers like a lullaby. The rails of the spirit tracks become the arteries of time itself, connection made manifest, binding the past to the living land. And still, further back or further forward, depending on how you drift through the dream, lies the time of twilight. A world where the light's reflection turns shadow, where the duality of the realm itself is seen at last. Midna's kingdom of twilight was never a parallel world. It was Hyrule's own shadow, the unseen ripple left when light shines too long on the same surface. The hero who bridged those realms proved that balance, not victory, is what sustains the legend. In every story, the hero awakens not from slumber alone, but from the memory of names and deeds he has never lived. He feels the pull of destiny because the song he follows is older than time itself. That is why the Master Sword rests in silent forest or hidden pedestal, awaiting recognition, not discovery. It is the instrument forged by faith to serve the cycle. It pierces evil and sleeps again and again, not as reset, but as ritual. Now imagine drifting toward Ocarina of Time, the legend so often blamed for dividing the streams of reality. But listen closely. The split is not a fracture, but a harmony. Child, adult, failure, all play the same chord of consequence. When the hero travels through time, he doesn't break the world. He harmonizes his own echoes across its layers. One melody, sung in different octaves, one song of courage heard from many directions. That is why each timeline feels complete, because each is truth from another angle of eternity. Even the so-called fallen hero branch, where Link succumbs and the world plunges into shadow, is not tragedy alone. It is the breath between cycles, the moment when the land itself becomes the hero through those who carry remnants of hope. The sages rise, prayers continue, and history waits for courage to return. Just as death in sleep is not the end, the fall of a hero is not the end of the legend. Every age of Zelda's line carries remembrance in her name, not through succession by blood alone, but through inheritance of will. She dreams of past lives not as visions, but as echoes in the soul. That is why the Triforce of Wisdom is always found again. It seeks its vessel, just as fire seeks air. Ganon, too, in his rage and sorrow, is more than a villain. He is the shadow of the divine gift, proof that power cannot exist without the will to balance it. His return, again and again, is not the timeline breaking. It is the curse of balance itself, demanding renewal. Each divine flame, each sacred realm, each dungeon filled with ancient machinery speaks of a civilization that has always been and will always be. The technology of the Sheikah, the machines of the Zonai, the spirits of the Rito, all are not successive cultures, but recurring aspects of the same song of Hyrule. The aesthetic shifts, the architecture changes, yet beneath it, the same melody persists. Courage at dawn, wisdom at dusk, power through the night. When the events of Breath of the Wild unfold, it is tempting to believe we have reached a new era beyond the old split. But the truth is gentler. Breath of the Wild and its echo, Tears of the Kingdom, do not erase the old timelines. They are the reawakening of all three combined. The threads of history, once tangled, have settled into one tapestry again. The divine beasts remember machines from ages lost. The master sword remembers every battle it has ever been swung. The ruins scattered across the world are not symbols of decay. They are fossils of memory. The Sheikah towers rise like tuning forks, resonating with the frequency of every legend that came before. And as Link stands atop a cliff at dawn, the wind carrying the faint bells of the past, we understand. The world around him is aware. The dragons circling the heavens are not beasts of the present age, but manifestations of eternal goddess energy, silently watching the wheel of history turn once more. In the tears of the dragons, Hyrule's own memory crystallizes. The regret of gods and mortals alike, fused as one endless breath. The loop of Zelda is not contradiction, it is reincarnation. Each era builds upon the previous like layers of sediment around a sacred seed. When one kingdom falls, its myths sink into the soul of the next. That's why ruins appear where no records exist, why temples remember names no one has spoken in millennia, and why every child who bears the mark of courage feels déjà vu when they lift the sword. And when peace finally comes, it isn't because evil is gone. It's because balance has been restored for a time. The timeline does not end. It rests. The legends fade into stories, the stories into songs, the songs into whispers, until once again a storm brews in the distance and Hyrule remembers its promise. That courage will rise when darkness does. Not new heroes, not new worlds, just the same melody, replayed in infinite variations. So, as you drift closer to sleep, picture it not as fractured eras, but as one heartbeat. Skyward Sword to Breath of the Wild, Minish Cap to Twilight Princess, Wind Waker to Ocarina, all one continuum, folding in on itself, each story a reflection in the water of time. You can close your eyes and walk across those reflections, from one legend to the next, never breaking the surface. And if you listen closely, beneath the sound of the wind and rustling leaves, you can hear it. The low hum of the goddess's lullaby, sung by the land itself. In Hyrule, nothing is truly lost. Every ruin is a memory. Every hero a dream reborn. The timeline was never broken. It was only dreaming, waiting for you to remember that the legend of Zelda is not a sequence of stories, but a living cycle, a heartbeat echoing through eternity, whispering once more, the legend will never end, because time itself loves to tell it again. But the song does not truly end with the dawn of a new world. It unfolds quietly, threading itself through every leaf, every current, every shrine half buried in the sand. Hyrule has always been alive, dreaming itself anew each time the hero wakes. The people may forget the reasons for their traditions, but the land never forgets. The wind still remembers the cries of the hero of time. The mountains remember being islands beneath the sea. Even the ruins speak, though their words are only understood by those who listen in silence. In the quiet of the Korok forest, the master sword stands amid light and shadow, its blade resonating softly, with the heartbeat of the earth. It remembers every hand that grasped it, every battle fought in the name of balance. Some say the blade is sentient, whispering guidance into the heart of whoever carries it. But the truth lies deeper. The sword is a vessel of memory, collecting fragments of the hero's soul across time. With every reincarnation, it grows wiser, not stronger in metal, but in spirit. And as it rests within the pedestal, it hums with all the courage Hyrule has ever known. The dragons that glide through the heavens embody the constant motion of divine energy. Farore's green spiral of vitality, Nairu's serene blue current, Din's fiery red flame. They are not mere beasts, but remnants of creation. They weave through skies as reminders that divinity never truly left the world. Sometimes a hero glimpses them and feels a rush of awe, sensing a connection he cannot explain. That moment, fleeting but profound, is the universe reminding him, "You have been here before." Hyrule's people, from the Zora of the deep waters to the Gerudo of the desert sands, live their own reflections of the eternal pattern. Each tribe guards knowledge from forgotten ages. Each festival reenacts truths the people no longer consciously recall. The dance of the Rito, in honor of the wind god, is the echo of the Skyloftians who once soared among the clouds. The Sheikah's luminous technology mirrors the light once stored in the goddess's own sanctuaries. Even the gentle Kokiri, descendants of forest spirits, embody the timeless innocence that rebirth always preserves. Many wonder why history seems to repeat itself so precisely. The same castle, the same evil, the same names. But repetition is sacred in Hyrule. It is not redundancy, it is remembrance. The people retell their own reality so that their world does not crumble beneath forgetfulness. When they rebuild Hyrule Castle time after time, they are not constructing stone walls. They are reconstructing faith. The hero's garments, sacred relics, the color of the tunic, all are ritual symbols, each generation unconsciously aligning itself with the myth that sustains them. Beneath the ruins of Hyrule Field lie countless layers of civilizations. The gears of ancient mechanisms still turn slowly under the soil, their hum a ghostly refrain. Those mechanisms belong to no single era, for all eras share them. They are the veins of the world, transferring knowledge from one cycle to another. The Sheikah shrines that rise from the earth respond not to commands, but to recognition. The land remembering that another age of awakening has begun. And deep within the ruins, there are murals. Some tell stories from epochs no one can name. A hero with the same eyes as the one standing before them. A princess holding light in her palms. A beast of darkness crowned like a king. The murals are not predictions or echoes. They are mirrors. Time showing itself what it already knows to be true. As Link wanders across these landscapes, he becomes both traveler and memory. With each step, he treads across iterations of the same life. The temples he enters are lessons long forgotten by mortals, but preserved by the gods, for him alone. Each puzzle solved, each flame rekindled, is Hyrule remembering itself through him. That is his true gift, not power or strength, but the ability to awaken the story sleeping within the earth. Beyond the mortal flow of life and death lies the sacred realm, reflection of the Triforce's perfect balance. Its essence touches the world wherever purity of heart opens the veil. When the Triforce becomes imbalanced, it reflects the turmoil of those who seek it. Ganondorf's corruption of that power does not shatter it. It completes the triad. For without darkness, the light would dissipate into emptiness. Hyrule's eternity depends on that tug of opposition, and so the cycle persists. When the hero dies, his spirit does not go to final rest. It waits in the creases of time, like wind paused between breaths. Somewhere, a child dreams of adventure under a starlit sky, and the thread begins again. The goddess smiles, guiding the spirit's rebirth. Each manifestation is different, shaped by the needs of its era, yet the heart remains the same. Courage unending, quiet, and relentless. If one could see Hyrule from above, not with eyes but with understanding, one would glimpse infinite loops spiraling around a single golden center, each loop an era, each knot a moment of great convergence. Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, all orbits of the same celestial song. They rotate endlessly, never colliding, never separated. The goddess made the world to endure, not by stasis, but through rhythm. Consider for a moment the temples scattered throughout these lands. At times, they seem impossibly ancient, yet filled with mechanisms that awaken only when the hero arrives. These structures bridge epochs because they do not truly exist in time. They are manifestations of purpose, surfacing whenever courage reappears to meet destiny. That is why the same motifs recur: the spiral, the eye, the triangle, symbols not of culture, but of ontology, the very blueprint of creation itself. When twilight once fell upon the kingdom and shadow merged with light, the people witnessed something divine. They saw that both realms depended on each other for meaning. The Twilight Realm was not exile. It was reflection. Midna's farewell was not an ending. It was acknowledgement that separation is an illusion. The two worlds, forever linked, now exist in harmony unseen, their borders fading as dreams fade into waking. The sages, too, never vanish. Whether bound to elements, to realms, or to prayers, they form the quiet chorus of the divine. They are embodiments of balance, mortals who have remembered too much of eternity to walk among the living freely. Their chants are the threads holding the tapestry together. When a hero falters, it is their voices that guide the next awakening. They do not interfere. They harmonize. And sometimes Hyrule's own pain becomes visible. The blood moons, the storms, the silence after wars. These are not random calamities. They are the world exhaling grief. Every act of violence leaves a resonance. When too much hatred gathers, the world releases it as chaos, not punishment, but balance restoring itself. Heroes do not erase pain. They help the world express it safely. That is the true meaning of cleansing evil, teaching the land to breathe again. Even the monsters, so often faceless in their menace, are fragments of the same spirit. The bokoblins who dance around fires, the linnels who roam unyielding, they are remnants of ancient will born from fear and shadow, seeking reunion. The hero's conflict with them is communion, not vengeance. Through battle, he recognizes them as parts of the whole, troublesome, necessary, eternal. Many ages ahead or behind, Hyrule may again face desolation. The castle may crumble, the seas may rise, or the heavens may close. Yet these endings are never definitive. The same way a flame is reborn from embers, the legend reignites. Somewhere an instrument plays an old melody, somewhere a princess dreams of wings, somewhere courage opens its eyes once more. The land waits patiently, knowing its story will continue. As moonlight softens over Hyrule's fields, imagine the spirit of every hero walking beside you. The child clothed in green who once traveled time, the sailor who chased the horizon, the wolf who hunted in twilight, the chosen knight who defied sleep for 100 years. They are not separate souls. They are a single will, shining through different moments of existence, forever lending strength to the present. What seems to us as legend is to Hyrule a single, unbroken memory. The so-called split timelines are but ripples caused by choices already folded into destiny. Time, after all, serves faith, not the other way around. The goddess does not watch from on high. She dwells within the weave of it all, humming softly, calling each of her children home at their appointed hour. And when the hero finally rests, when peace settles like dew upon the grass, an echo lingers in the distance, the faint toll of a bell, the whisper of a harp string, the pulse of the Triforce beneath the soil. The land sleeps, but does not forget. For in every dawn there is remembrance, and in every night the promise that time will dream anew. That is why the Zelda timeline was never broken. It was never meant to be linear, never meant to be logical in the way mortals measure stories. It is the song of the world remembering itself through infinite lives. Every legend, every defeat, every hope is part of a single eternal breath. The breath of the wild, the whisper of the wind, the hum beneath the stars. When you awaken tomorrow, you will still hear it singing quietly beneath the noise of the modern world. And if you listen with your heart, you will know that you've heard it before, long ago, in dreams older than time itself. And yet, even as ages drift into one another, and the ancient steeples fall into the ground once more, Hyrule continues to remember. The people build villages on top of towns that once ruled the world. The grass grows where kings once walked. Legends become folk songs whispered by lantern light. And though centuries may pass before courage is called upon again, the pulse of that sacred order never silences itself. Somewhere beyond the reach of words, the spirit of the hero stirs. It always begins quietly, a flicker of unease, a whisper from the earth itself. The rustling of leaves in the lost woods carries faint music. The rivers shimmer strangely under the moonlight. The world begins to wait, and then, as if recalling a familiar melody, destiny awakens once more. The reincarnation of the hero is not merely a choice of the goddess or a stroke of luck. It is inevitability. Courage is not bound to a single body. It flows through existence like wind, flows through canyon and tree. And so when evil grows strong enough to disturb the balance, courage, too, finds its vessel, guided by unseen memory. The young boy or wandering knight is always chosen not because he is ready, but because he is willing to listen. Every Zelda, every Link, every Ganondorf, they are not different people across history. They are facets of one eternal mythic equation playing itself again and again so that reality may remain whole. The princess must remember, the hero must act, and the Dark One must yearn. Tragedy is their blessing, for without it, the wheel would cease to turn. When you think about it, the Sheikah understood this best. Their technology was never just mechanical invention. It was spiritual architecture. The shrines, the guardians, the towers, all were designed not as weapons, but as memories given form. The light that glows within a Sheikah monument is knowledge preserved beyond the lifespan of mortal minds. They do not fear time, for they have learned how to inscribe faith upon stone. And so, even if thousands of years separate one hero from the next, the Sheikah's whispers endure, ready to awaken once more at the goddess's silent word. In the desert, beneath the endless sun. The Gerudo also remember. Their queen's rebirth, again and again, is not an accident. Ganondorf is the embodiment of imbalance, a necessary opposite to courage's compassion. His hunger is the shadow that ensures the light has shape. Some generations he is cruel and unyielding, in others a tragic echo who simply cannot escape his role. Perhaps even he, in the deepest corners of his vision, knows that he too serves the cycle. Though he resists it, his rebellion sustains its motion. Long after kingdoms fall and temples crumble, there will always be someone who finds a blade in the forest, someone who dreams of wings over clouds, someone who whispers a name they have never heard, but feel they have always known. That whisper carries the entire weight of time. It is the dream of Hyrule itself. If time in Hyrule is a great circle, then memory is its center. And memory explains why ruins of Zonai temples coexist beside fragments of Sheikah shrines and walls carved in ancient Hylian script. Each civilization leaves behind an imprint that transcends its chronology. To outsiders, it looks contradictory. To those who listen, it is harmonious, a chorus of remembrance layered upon itself, like sunlight reflected through shattered glass. In the quiet places, where the songs of old still drift through the wind, there sometimes appear the ghosts of those who once served the gods. The sages may appear as statues or spirits, but their presence is never gone. Through their eternal vigilance they maintain the equilibrium of the circle. When courage falters, they wait. When wisdom wavers, they guide. When power corrupts, they stand sentinel against total ruin. They have become beyond time, and in doing so, they keep time's integrity intact. And then there is Zelda, forever bound to the sacred duty of remembrance. Her gift is awareness, the ability to feel the flow of the ages, to perceive reflections of all her past selves. She carries not only divinity through the blood of Hylia, but empathy for every version of her land. Her dreams are filled with voices not her own, yet familiar. Sometimes she wakes in tears, for she can feel the joy and sorrow of incarnations thousands of years apart. The realm depends upon her memory, for if she ever truly forgot, the legend might dissolve into myth and be lost forever. The old sages once wrote that history does not move forward or back, but inward, like breath drawn in and released again. That is why the timeline seems inconsistent to mortal minds. It inhales experiences, then exhales them, transformed. To the gods, all of these stories happen simultaneously. To mortals, they appear as succession. Neither is wrong. Both are simply different ways of hearing the same divine song. In the far future or distant past, time ceases to matter. The hero wanders through lands where sky and ground intertwine, where floating ruins drift like memories unanchored. It is said that these places exist because the fabric of reality remembers itself imperfectly. The sky islands of the ancient era may in truth be the forgotten remnants of Skyloft itself. Renewed over and over, the land has never entirely lost its wings. Sometimes, when standing on a high cliff, the wind carries the faintest phrase of an ancient ballad, the ballad of the goddess, the song of time, Zelda's lullaby. These melodies traverse centuries unchanged. They do not survive because someone taught them anew. They persist because the world itself hums them. The rivers sing them as they cut through valleys. The birds carry them beyond the mountains. Even silence between notes is full of recollection. And so, when scholars try to draw maps of history or to label its ages with precise beginnings and ends, they misunderstand the nature of the sacred story. The timeline cannot break because it does not begin or end. It only transforms. When a kingdom falls into shadow, a new age rises not above its ashes, but from within them. The ruins become roots for new destiny. Guardians from the Sheikah age, ancient robots built to defend the realm, stand rusting under layers of moss and earth. Yet, when called upon, they awaken without hesitation, as if no time has passed. These machines, too, are fragments of the divine memory. They have forgotten years, but not purpose. Their first sight upon awakening is always the same. The hero, standing beneath the sun, carrying an echo of courage that tells them the era continues. Travelers may stumble upon the remnants of long-lost cities, Hyrule Castle Town, Arbiter's Grounds, Lanayru's sacred springs. In all of them, relics shimmer under dust, broken stained glass, fragments of murals, the faint scent of sacred lotus decades dead. To most, they are relics of unrelated times, but to the spirits of the land, they are simply stages of the same unending dream. The material shift, the light changes, but the dream remains constant. Dreams, in fact, hold an important place in Hyrule's structure. Entire realities, like the island shaped from windfish slumber, exist solely within consciousness. Such dreams are not exceptions. They are glimpses of Hyrule's inner mechanism. When the world sleeps, it reshapes itself into the next form it must take. That is why awakening is always central to its legends. The awakening of gods, of heroes, of the land itself. So even when all seems lost, when calamity scorches the fields and ruin swallow light, faith should not despair. Because somewhere within the ashes, life waits. The goddess waits. The cycle waits. It always has. That is why, when Link rises from a century of sleep, the world is not ruined, but ready. The Sheikah towers rise again, sensing the presence of the chosen spirit. Zelda's voice drifts through his dreams, not as memory, but as magnetism, drawing courage back into form. Each divine beast, each guardian, recognizes him because they were never meant for anyone else. They were built to respond whenever that familiar music of bravery resonates through the heart of time. So the circle completes itself once again. The world breathes, the hero rises, the goddess remembers, and power awakens to test them all. It will happen countless more times, as it always has. Not because fate demands it, but because creation desires meaning. The dance must continue, or existence grows silent. And if you were to sit by the edge of Lake Hylia, watching the reflection of starlight on the water, you might hear the past humming beneath the ripples. You might realize that the reflection is not of the present alone. It shows ages upon ages, mirrored upon themselves infinitely. In that reflection, you would see that every piece of history fits perfectly within the design. Every paradox and every loop, every forgotten kingdom and prophecy fulfilled, form the complete face of eternity. The Zelda timeline was never broken because the world it depicts was never linear. It has always been a living being, breathing history in and out of itself, finding beauty in impermanence and continuity alike. And as you listen to that breath, you begin to understand the legend doesn't belong to the past. It lives within the very act of remembering. For as long as one soul in Hyrule whispers the old songs, as long as someone reaches for light in the darkness, the story will continue to unfold. The wheel will turn, and somewhere, perhaps in dream, perhaps in dawn, the next hero will open their eyes, unaware that countless lifetimes gaze through them, and Hyrule, ageless and infinite, will begin again, just as it always has and always will. There are still places in Hyrule where one can feel the world dreaming. The lost woods hum with the soft laughter of forgotten children. The deserts shimmer not only with heat, but with memory. Even the winds that circle Death Mountain carry with them echoes of songs long since vanished from mortal tongues. In these spaces, time folds so tightly upon itself that yesterday and tomorrow become the same. It is here that the truth of the eternal legend can be felt most clearly, not as a story told, but as a presence that surrounds everything. Sometimes, in the stillness between night and dawn, the veil between lives lifts. The hero feels the weight of equipment he has never worn, the ache of battles he has never fought, and the tenderness of friends he has not yet met. It is not simply remembrance, it is continuation. The soul of courage never truly sleeps, it only changes faces, clothing, and name. The spirit remembers what the body has yet to learn. And this is how destiny always finds its way. The goddesses designed the world so that even forgetting is part of preservation. Mortals cannot bear infinity, so they live inside moments, repeating them until the lessons of harmony sink deep into the heart of creation. History's purpose is not to record, it is to nurture understanding. That is why each hero's triumph is both familiar and new. Every age must rediscover the meaning of balance for itself. If we journey further into imagination, we may glimpse how even physical laws bend gently around the will of myth. The flow of time responds not to clocks, but to emotion. Hope speeds its passage, sorrow slows it, faith bends it. When Zelda prays, she alters the rhythm of centuries. When Link lifts the blade, the world exhales. This is not magic, but resonance. Hyrule does not exist apart from belief. It feeds upon it. In the high places, mountain tops, temple summits, and cloud islands, the goddess's voice is strongest. But she speaks not through words, rather through feeling, the calm before a storm, the warmth of a sunrise, the hush of snowfall. These sensations are not chosen at random. They are communication coded directly into nature. So when the hero stands in awe before the dawn, he is reading the goddess's scripture written in color and wind instead of ink. Further still, beneath the lakes and caverns, the spirit of the underworld sleeps in silence. The ghosts there are not malicious. They are memories that forgot how to dream. The hero, passing through their realm, offers them solace merely by remembering their existence. To be acknowledged is to awaken, and so his journey is redemption not only for the living, but for all of time lost to silence. There is beauty in impermanence. The world must decay for its essence to be reborn into new symbols. The shattered temple of time becomes the silent ruin overlooking new cities. The shattered sword is reforged with the blessing of ages past. Decay is not tragedy, it is metamorphosis. And as each kingdom dissolves, it enriches the soul of Hyrule itself, as leaves feed the very forest that once sheltered them. This, perhaps, is what the Sheikah always meant when they spoke of the eye that sees beyond. To them, sight was not about vision, but about comprehension, understanding that every ruin and resurrection, every tear and triumph, is one unbroken act of creation. The eye weeps because it sees everything returning to itself. Some stories tell that before the world ends for the last time, The hero and princess will walk hand in hand through every location of every age, the fields of the past, the seas of the future, and the skies of eternity. As they walk, each place will shine once more just for an instant. Then light will fold into itself, and the world will enter a perfect stillness. This is not destruction, but rest, the dream between cycles before creation begins anew. Even the goddesses must sleep, and their dreams are universes waiting to be born. But for now, Hyrule endures. The rivers flow, the grass sways, and laughter once again fills castle courtyards rebuilt from the bones of history. The people believe their age to be unique, their peace final. Yet the wiser among them, those who remember the stories, keep watch upon the horizon, knowing that peace in Hyrule is but the inhale before the next exhale of destiny. And when a new darkness inevitably begins to stir, when shadow thickens at the edge of the world, those wise souls do not despair. They know the pattern too well. They gather the sacred heirlooms, they recount the songs, and somewhere a child destined for courage begins to dream of fireflies in the dark forest. The story begins, as it always has, with innocence unaware of its own greatness. This repeated innocence is Hyrule's greatest mercy, for if any hero remembered their full weight of past battles and sacrifices, the grief would crush them. The goddess spares them that memory, sending them forth empty of burden, yet full of readiness. Only through rediscovering purpose can courage remain pure. In rare moments, however, fragments of ancient memory surface, a melody hummed absent-mindedly, a fleeting sense of déjà vu. These are the gifts of the spirit world, reminders from old incarnations to their future selves. "You have done this before," they whisper, "and you will do it again." It sounds sorrowful, yet within that recognition lies comfort, the assurance that nothing truly ends. Beyond the mortal senses, the Triforce rests in timeless harmony. It observes no wars, no boundaries, no sequence. To it, the deeds of gods and mortals alike are but notes in one eternal composition. Occasionally the balance shifts, and the relic shines through the world's fabric, manifesting as events that we witness, miraculous victories, impossible survivals, utter miracles that defy reason. Such moments are when the Triforce reminds creation of its own perfection. So when we claim that the timeline is unified, we speak not metaphorically, but truthfully. Every event, every divergence, every redemption and fall exists simultaneously within that living golden geometry. The hero who saves the sea and the one who walks through twilight exist side by side, both necessary, both real. The story needs each of them to complete its chorus. Listen carefully to the wind across the plains. Beneath its endless sigh, you can almost hear faint laughter, the laughter of time itself, because even time delights in being retold. And that, in the end, is the comfort of Zelda's myth. It teaches that the universe is not broken even when it changes form. It reassures us that every failure is only another version of victory waiting to awaken. The timeless kingdom hums beneath our modern noise, still whispering that cycle of courage, wisdom, and power. If you ever find yourself by the rivers of Hyrule, real or imagined, close your eyes. Feel the current, warm yet patient. Hear the rustle of leaves from endless forests. Somewhere beyond sight, someone else is standing beside the same river, separated by centuries, yet joined through destiny. The moment folds inward, and the world becomes whole. The Zelda timeline has never been shattered. It has always been one story dreaming of itself across endless hearts. And now, as you close your eyes and feel your own breath align with that ancient rhythm, you become part of the same tale, the quiet understanding that even in a world built on legend, every memory lives forever. Beneath all things, silence of the sacred realm hums softly like a heartbeat underground and sky alike. For time is not merely passing, time is listening. Each echo of each life adds another tone to the cosmic chord that keeps Hyrule alive. In every century, new instruments rise to play the same song. The flute of the forest child, the ocarina of time, the harp of the goddess, all are manifestations of the same divine resonance. They are the voice of continuity, reminding reality of its own cadence. The final secret of this world lies not in discovering a beginning or ending, but in accepting that it never truly sleeps. The goddesses did not design the Triforce to crown dominion. They created it to sustain dialogue between divinity and creation, between history and future, between life and life again. The golden relic waits not to be claimed, but to be remembered. Whenever a heart attuned to harmony approaches, it responds. That is why it returns generation after generation, drawn to those who still carry belief. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, a pattern on a shield, a symbol above a door, sunlight forming triangles through a window pane. The entire world is written in its shape. To recognize it is to momentarily awaken to the unity of all stories. The child gathering rupees, the sage guarding temples, the wanderer gazing at distant seas. They are each holding one corner of the sacred shape without knowing it. If the land could speak, it might tell us that it does not perceive heroes and ages as we do. To Hyrule, there has only ever been the single story playing endlessly through light and shadow. Every calamity is a heartbeat, every restoration a sigh. Neither good nor evil ever dominates, because both are limbs on the same divine body. The goddesses knew this, that only motion preserves existence. Without conflict, there could be no peace. Without fall, no rise. Without shadow, no dawn. Many travelers once asked why prophecy seems to fail in disjointed fragments, why temples and artifacts appear out of sequence. The answer, simple yet profound, is that all prophecy is self-fulfilling. Legends survive by being believed, and their belief manifests them into the world whenever balance asks for it. Thus, a hero of a far-off era may find relics of an age yet to come, because spiritually they are one and the same. Time gives way before faith. The seeds of this understanding lie even within the most mundane details. A street vendor telling tales of old monsters, a painter recapturing the same castle silhouette painted centuries before. None of them know they are keeping the cycle intact. But the world thrives on participation. Every song retold, every statue cleaned, every prayer whispered keeps Hyrule lucid within the cosmos. The whole kingdom, unknowingly, is creation's heartbeat made manifest. And so, as one tale ends and another stirs to life, the people rejoice not to forget the past, but to celebrate being part of something that even the gods hold sacred. The hero does not transcend mortality by living forever. He transcends it by being necessary forever. The same spirit woven into every leaf, bond, and memory, eternally returning, eternally young. There are moments right before the dawn fog burns away, when the veil thins enough for the devoted to glimpse outlines of vanished cities rising from the mist. Towers that have not stood for centuries gleam for an instant, then fade. These are not ghosts, but final kind words from time itself, saying, everything you remember is still true. Everything you love has not been lost, only transformed into the new sun. Across the fields, lonelier voices call, the rustling of Stalfos bones in forgotten ruins, the cries of keys stirring from cracks in temple walls. They too belong to this pattern. Shadows do not mark failure, they ensure contrast. Even darkness protects the memory of light. Ganon's endless struggle, the tragedy of his rebellion, is itself a sermon in immortality, proof that even damnation can hold purpose. He too guards equilibrium by testing its strength. When each incarnation of Link confronts this dark mirror, he confronts the truth that heroism is a conversation, not a conquest. Power demands courage. Courage shapes wisdom. Wisdom redeems power. It is an eternal loop, not of punishment, but of learning. This is why the hero never truly destroys evil, only returns it to silence. The battle will rekindle someday as it must, because it sustains both sides of being. And yet, there is peace in that knowledge, for knowing that life never truly ends is the gentlest comfort creation can offer. So long as sunlight strikes the castle's highest spire, as long as waves touch Lanayru's coast, and as long as wind whispers through Korok leaves, the promise stands. The legend endures. In ancient prayer chambers now buried beneath centuries of soil, the inscriptions still shine faintly with divine energy. They depict the goddess closing her eyes, smiling, as countless lives unfold below her. She is both witness and participant of all timelines, knitting them together with grace. And though mortals call upon her for protection, she depends upon them equally for understanding. For every hero's courage becomes her memory, and every prayer becomes her breath. Sometimes, a wandering spirit far removed from legend, perhaps a farmer, a minstrel, a scholar, feels sudden warmth in their chest, a presence impossible to define. That is eternity touching them. Hyrule's soul extending gratitude to those who live gently within its rhythm. The world rewards reverence in kind ways, through moments of beauty that seem to hold time still. A sunrise that lasts a little longer. Rain that stops exactly when one looks skyward. Small miracles, reminders from a realm that never ceased watching. And in dreaming, Hyrule speaks most clearly. Many who've traveled its lands have dreamt of flying islands or walking through oceans made of glass or meeting kings carved from starlight. These dreams are not separate from memory. They are continuity itself, offering fragments of every timeline, stitched together in ways only the sleeping mind can safely hold. Anyone touched by those dreams becomes part of the conversation, another verse in the song. One could say that somewhere in another reflection of reality, another listener is hearing this same story, perhaps lying awake, eyes half closed, drifting through the music of an unseen field at night. The rustle of distant leaves might be the same wind from Ganon's ancient fortress, the same that once carried the laughter of skyloft children across the sky. In such moments, perception widens, and the listener becomes participant. We are all within that same circle now, and when the final beat of this era fades into silence and new stars rise over the kingdom yet again, no one will mourn what came before, for memory is immortal. Everything that was once love continues to exist, somewhere between wakefulness and dream, woven into the quiet pulse of creation. The hero sleeps, the land sighs, and the goddess dreams her golden dream. All is one, all is well. Now, as you let these words settle, imagine the stillness of that land under moonlight, grass bending to a slow wind, distant owls calling, the faint glow of a shrine embering beneath the trees. Time drifts, unhurried, unconcerned. The Triforce gleams invisibly within the pattern of stars overhead, completing its circuit once more. Hyrule rests, but never ceases. The cycle has no flaw, no fracture, only infinite gentle motion. And so, we return to the truth too easily forgotten. The Zelda timeline was never broken. It cannot be broken because it was never bound. It moves in circles, in songs, in stories told beside fires and carved into stone. It is the heartbeat of a world teaching itself how to remain whole. And as long as one memory of it lingers, in dream, in love, in hope, the legend will wake again. So close your eyes now. Let the wind carry you across the plains of memory. Hear the laughter of ages blending into silence, and know that the story continues, not out there, but within you. You are walking the same path, listening to the same melody, part of the same infinite motion that keeps every world alive. Nothing is lost. Nothing ever was.